Hello and welcome back to another Millennial Minute. I'm David Grasso. What does the future of the Republican Party look like? You've already heard from our guests. They're both friends of mine and friends of the show. We have AJ Swinson and Christian Watson. Well, we heard you right off the top there. Tell me, AJ, what do you think the Republican Party needs to do to speak to minority voters? Specifically, let's talk about Black women.
So what do Black women care about? They care about the same things that other people do. They want to know that their family will be safe, that their kids can get a great education. And if you have policies that have to do with that, then talk to Black women about that. It's not rocket science. Talk to them about education, talk about school choice, talk about safety for neighborhoods, talk about police reform so that they don't have to worry about their kids when they leave the house.
Yeah, Christian, you mentioned a dark path. What do you mean by that? So is the Republican Party going down a rabbit hole that may not be the best of strategy, nor, just the right thing to do?
So I think that when the Republican Party basically caters to people like Majorie Taylor Greene and they're involved in this sort of wild conspiracism, it kind of detaches itself from its original moral vision. And its original moral vision has everything to do with the individual and how the individual operates in society rather than how some made up fantasy conspiracy world operates and need to be these sort of stooges for a particular person or a particular movement. No. So I think that that's the dark path. And if the Republican Party just remembers that, again, that the fundamental core values are the values that the founders had at the beginning of the American experiment, I think they will do just well. And I must concur with what AJ said. So there are a lot of issues that a lot of minority communities want to talk about. And I think a part of the messaging can be how the Republican Party plans to fix those issues like police brutality and things of that sort.
Cool. So, AJ, is there room in the party for never Trumpers, or should they just be excluded and tarred and feathered like we've seen in recent times?
Well, I disagree. They've been tarred and feathered. If anything, they've tried to tar and feather Trumpers. And the Lincoln Project has had their own issues, so they're internally imploding, for example. But yes, there's definitely room for never Trumpers. I think that the issue is when you're holding a Trump to a different standard than you're holding other politicians to. And it's right to call that out if you believe that. But I think we're going to have to all come together under principles and not under personalities.
Great. That answered my question. Christian, same question. If you're more, let's say, more moderate, I don't know if that's a bad word these days, and consider yourself a Republican and maybe you're not a big fan of Trump, is there room in the party for that, or do they just need to scram?
Well, there should be room. I do think that it's going to be harder for you if you have a resistance to the president. But again, I think this goes back to the original issue. It shouldn't simply be about a single person or a single idea. I think AJ is right. It needs to be about principles or personalities. So in light of that, we shouldn't have these sort of inane purity tests that say, okay, if you oppose the former president or if you have disagreements with the former president, you're not a Republican. That's the opposite, actually. The Republican Party is a party that prides free speech. So I wish I could say, yes, they should stay, but never Trumpers have a harder time. I mean, look at how Liz Cheney is being treated. They have a harder time, unfortunately. So they're going to have to kind of balance that, their political futures with their sort of disdain for the president. And how that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, AJ, last question here. Liz Cheney, definitely not a liberal, right? The Cheney, some of the most conservative people I can think of. She's being tarred and feathered for being an anti-Trumper. Why isn't Liz Cheney entitled to her own opinion in modern day politics, evidently?
Liz Cheney's situation is a little bit different because she actually pretty much walked lock and step with Trump while he was in office. The fact that she voted and encouraged other Republicans to vote for Trump to be impeached is where people felt, one, it was disingenuous because she supported him before, and two, it wasn't what the people in her district wanted her to do. And so they were rightfully upset with her for going against what they felt was their best interest. So, as a politician, you're constantly weighing, what do the people that I work for want? And what are my personal convictions? And she kind of went out of her way to put her personal convictions above the voters.
Wow. Well, anyway, on that note, what a fascinating conversation. Thank you to you both. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
No problem.
And thank you all for watching. Be sure to follow us at Bold TV on all the social media platforms. Hopefully we will be approved on the platforms and not get deplatformed. But in the meantime, I'm David Grasso for Bold TV. Have a great day.